Whoa, did you see the stock market completely tank this week?
Yeah, what was that all about?
I mean, $1 trillion just poof, gone like that in a single day.
It was crazy.
It really makes you wonder what could cause that kind of shockwave,
Mm,
you know?
absolutely.
Well, the source of all this chaos is actually what we're diving into today.
Oh, cool.
It's called DeepSeek R1.
DeepSeek R1.
Yeah, it's this brand new AI model.
Hmm.
And get this, it came from China.
Interesting.
And it's been sending shockwaves through the entire tech world.
Huh. Like a tech earthquake.
Exactly, it's like an earthquake.
Wow.
So today we're going to try to figure out why everyone is making such a fuss about this new AI
Okay.
and what it could mean for, well, pretty much everything.
I'm intrigued.
And to help us with this deep dive, we have our amazing AI expert joining us again today.
Hi, everyone. Always happy to be back.
So you were saying earthquake.
Ah, yes. Well, that's not too far off, actually.
Really?
A lot of people are calling this a Sputnik moment for AI.
A Sputnik moment.
Yeah, it's like a wake-up call to everyone that China's catching up fast in the tech world.
Oh, yeah, Sputnik. I kind of remember that from history class.
Right. So back in 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik.
Uh-huh.
It was the very first artificial satellite,
Right.
and it caught the U.S. completely off guard.
Oh, wow.
It kickstarted this massive space race between the two countries.
Right, the whole Cold War space race thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're saying DeepSeek is causing those same kind of anxieties now, but in the AI world.
Exactly. It's like China just said, hold my Tsingtao, and leaped ahead in the AI game.
Uh-huh. I like that. Hold my Tsingtao. That's good. So to really get into this, we're looking at a fantastic article from datapro.news.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
It's called DeepSeek R1. What is all the fuss about?
Yeah.
And it was published just a few days ago on January 29th, 2025.
Very recent.
Yeah. So, when I first saw that DeepSeek was developed for only $5.6 million,
Uh-huh.
honestly, my jaw hit the floor. That's nothing compared to the billions that U.S. companies have been pouring into their own AI projects.
Yeah, you do have to wonder what some of these big tech companies are doing with all that money, right?
I know, right? Especially when you hear that DeepSeek is performing just as well as, or even better than those leading U.S. models.
It's pretty remarkable.
Wait, so hold on. It's cheaper A&D. It performs better.
It seems that way.
No wonder the stock market's going haywire.
I know, it's a real shakeup.
So what is the secret sauce here? What makes this DeepSeek so special?
Well, a big part of it is that DeepSeek is open source.
Open source.
Yeah, imagine a small business, let's say a local bakery, right?
Okay.
They want to use AI to recommend the perfect pastry to each customer based on their preferences.
Sounds delicious and smart.
But before DeepSeek, that would have been impossible, way too expensive.
Yeah.
But now, with DeepSeek being open source, they can download the code, adapt it for their bakery,
Wow.
and bam, they've got AI-powered pastry recommendations.
No way.
No expensive licensing fees, no need to hire a whole team of AI specialists.
That's incredible. So it's like open source is leveling the playing field for everyone.
Exactly. It's opening up so many possibilities that were just unimaginable before.
Wow. I see how that would be revolutionary, especially for those smaller businesses who couldn't even dream of using this kind of technology before.
It's a game changer for sure.
But you mentioned some downsides to open source earlier, didn't you?
Ah, yes. There are always two sides to the coin.
So what are some of the potential downsides we need to be aware of?
Well, one issue is that you're relying on community support instead of a dedicated team of engineers.
Okay, so if something goes wrong, there's no customer service hotline to call.
Pretty much you're hoping someone on some online forum has run into the same problem and knows how to fix it.
So it's DIY AI, but without the instruction manual.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay, what else?
Security is a big one.
Security.
When the code is open for everyone to see, it means that people with bad intentions could exploit it.
Ah, like leaving the blueprints to your house out in the open for anyone to see.
Exactly. Anyone, including burglars, could study them and figure out the weak points.
Makes sense. Okay, so security is a concern. What else should we be thinking about?
Well, the article also talked about something called version fragmentation.
Version fragmentation, what's that?
Well, with open source projects, you often have multiple versions or forks being developed at the same time.
Okay.
And this can lead to compatibility issues and make it harder to integrate the model into existing systems.
So it's like trying to fit together puzzle pieces from different puzzles.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so open source has its pluses and minuses, high reward potential, but also some inherent risks.
It's a trade-off.
So let's talk about what makes DeepSeek R1 tick. What's under the hood that makes it so efficient, so game-changing?
Well, the article dives deep into the architecture, and it's really fascinating.
Okay.
One of the key innovations is something called mixture of experts. or MO.
Mixture of experts. MOE. Okay, I'm
Right.
listening.
So think of it like a team of specialists, each one an expert in a specific field.
Okay.
Instead of having one giant AI model trying to do everything,
Huh?
DeepSeek R1 divides the work amongst these specialized experts.
Oh, so it's like having a brain surgeon, a rocket scientist, and a master chef all on call, but you only pay for the one you actually need at the moment.
Exactly. And this is how DeepSeek achieves such incredible performance without the massive computational costs and energy consumption of traditional models.
Wow, that's really clever. So it's like having a team of super efficient problem solvers ready to tackle any challenge with laser focus.
That's a great way to think about it.
So how does DeepSeek know which expert to call on for a given task?
That's where the second key innovation comes in reinforcement learning, or RL.
Reinforcement learning RL. Okay, I think I've heard of that, but remind me how it works.
Sure, so DeepSeek was trained using a technique called R10, which relies only on reinforcement learning.
Okay,
No supervised fine-tuning needed.
interesting. What does that mean exactly?
It's kind of like training a dog with more treats. The model receives rewards for making the right decisions and learns through trial and error, constantly refining its strategy.
Oh, so it's like DeepSeek is playing a giant game of hot and cold, getting warmer as it gets closer to the right answer?
You got it.
That's incredible,
Yeah.
but also seems like it could go off the rails pretty easily if the rewards aren't set up properly.
That's true. Designing the reward system is absolutely crucial. If the rules of the game are flawed, the AI could learn the wrong lessons or end up doing things we didn't intend.
It's like setting up a system that rewards employees for the number of emails they send rather than the quality of their work.
Exactly. You might get a lot of emails, but not a lot of productivity.
Right, quantity over quality, not always a good thing.
Exactly. And that brings us to the third major innovation group, relative policy optimization, or GRPO.
GRPO.
Right,
Okay.
okay.
Another acronym for the collection.
This one is a real game changer. It makes the whole reinforcement learning process much more efficient.
So GRPO makes the training faster and cheaper. Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about how it works.
So traditional reinforcement learning often uses separate critic models to estimate the value of different actions.
Okay.
But this essentially doubles the infrastructure costs.
I'll see.
GRPO gets rid of the need for those critics by comparing actions within groups of responses. Imagine a talent show where the judges don't give each contestant a score.
Okay.
Instead, they just rank them from best to worst.
So it's a relative ranking system instead of an absolute scoring system.
Right, and this relative ranking is way more efficient.
Interesting.
It cuts down on the computational overhead by about 30%,
Wow.
and it also simplifies the whole training process.
But I'm guessing it requires some pretty sophisticated ranking mechanisms to make sure the AI is learning the right things.
You're absolutely right. You need judges with really discerning taste to make sure the right talent rises to the top.
Okay, so we've got MOE for task delegation, RL for adaptive learning, and GRPO for streamlined training. It sounds like an amazing combination.
It's a real breakthrough in AI technology.
But I have a feeling there's some downsides to this architecture as well. There's no such thing as a free lunch, right?
You're right, there are always trade-offs to consider.
Well, we'll have to unpack those trade-offs in part 2 of our DeepSeek Deep Dive. Stay tuned, folks. All right, so before we left off, we were talking about how DeepSeek R1's amazing architecture probably comes with a few downsides, too.
Right. There are always trade-offs.
It can't all be perfect, right?
Exactly. One challenge with MOE is managing all those experts.
Oh, right. All those specialists.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just letting them do their thing.
So it's not just plug and play.
Not quite. You need specialized algorithms and know how to make sure tasks are routed efficiently.
I see. To avoid creating any bottlenecks.
Exactly. You need someone who really understands how the system works.
To make sure the right expert is handling the right task at the right time.
Right. It's like having a team of brilliant surgeons.
Yeah.
They're all amazing, but highly specialized, so you need a skilled coordinator to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Right, so the patient gets the right treatment?
Exactly. In this case, the patient is the AI task.
Gotcha. Okay, so what other downsides are we looking at?
Well, even though MOE is super efficient, communicating between all those experts can cause some latency.
Ah, so even though each expert is fast, getting them all on the same page takes time.
Right. It's like having your team of experts scattered all over the world.
Makes sense. So that could be an issue for tasks that need super fast responses.
Exactly. For some applications, it's not a big deal, but for others, those delays could be a problem.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah. The article also talks about how reinforcement learning models can be a little unpredictable.
Oh, so even though it learns and adapts, it can still act up sometimes.
Yeah, it can behave erratically in unexpected situations.
Huh. So you need to keep a close eye on it,
Yeah, you need robust monitoring to catch any anomalies.
like a babysitter for your AI.
Kinda, you want to make sure it doesn't wander off and do something you didn't intend.
Haha. All right, so what about the GRPO training method? Any downsides there?
Well, one thing is that it can be hard to replicate results.
Really? Why is that?
It depends heavily on how the reward function is designed.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right, it's more of an art than a science.
So even if DeepSeek R1 does amazing things in one situation, it might not be easy to get those same results somewhere else.
Exactly. It's a consideration for organizations that need consistent, reliable performance.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about the good, the bad, and the unpredictable. Now, let's get down to brass tacks deployment costs.
All right.
How does DeepSeek R1 stack up against those traditional models?
Well, the cost savings are huge.
Really?
Yeah, the article has a great table comparing the costs.
I'll have to check that out.
DeepSeek R1 is cheaper to develop, it needs less expensive hardware to run, and it's more energy efficient.
So cheaper, faster, greener sounds too good to be true.
There's always a catch, right?
Exactly what's the catch?
Well, optimizing DeepSeek for peak performance requires specialized knowledge and tools.
So you need people who know what they're doing.
Exactly. We're talking about things like custom CUDO kernels.
GDA kernels.
Yeah, and advanced techniques like quantization-aware training.
Okay, so it's like having a super efficient electric car.
Uh-huh.
It's cheap to run, but you need a specialized mechanic and high-tech tools to keep it in top shape.
That's a great analogy, and finding those specialized mechanics, the data engineers who can work with DeepSeek R1 is another challenge.
Right, because this is also new. There aren't many people with those skills.
Exactly. There's a big skill gap right now.
So you save money on the model itself, but then you need to invest in training or recruitment.
Yeah, it's a trade-off.
Okay. What about the tools to manage this thing?
That's another issue. The current MLOps platforms aren't really built for DeepSeek R1's unique architecture.
Oh, so they're not compatible.
Not quite. You might need custom integrations or wait for the tools to catch up.
Like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, it'll take some effort.
Right, so adopting DeepSeek R1 is more complicated than just downloading the code.
You need a plan.
Exactly. So for data teams thinking about using it, what does the article recommend?
Start small. Don't jump into mission-critical applications right away.
Okay, so test the waters first.
Exactly. Try it out on something low risk. Get a feel for it.
Makes sense. What else?
You need to invest in the right infrastructure,
Okay.
hardware and software designed for the MOE architecture.
So like building a racetrack for that electric car.
Exactly. The article specifically mentions NVIDIA's Triton inference server as a good option.
Okay. And what about those FPGA-based routers you mentioned earlier?
Ah, yes. Those are important for efficient expert selection.
So they make sure the right expert is called upon at the right time.
Exactly, like air traffic controllers for the data flow.
That's pretty complex stuff.
It's a specialized area of expertise.
Which is why those full-stack data and AI engineers are so important.
Exactly. They need to understand both the data science and the hardware.
The bridge between the two worlds.
Right. And the article also talks about building hybrid systems.
Hybrid systems, what are those?
It's a way to combine DeepSeek R1 with smaller, more specialized models.
Oh, so you get the best of both worlds.
Right. DeepSeek for the complex reasoning and other models for tasks where cost or latency are important.
Like a team of specialists, each with their own unique skills.
Exactly.
Okay, so you need the right team, the right tools, and a solid plan to manage the risks.
It's all about being prepared.
So what are some key strategies for mitigating those security and performance risks?
Robust monitoring is essential. You need to detect any anomalies in real time.
So like security cameras for your AI.
Right. You want to know immediately if anything suspicious is happening.
Gotcha. And the article mentioned homomorphic encryption for protecting sensitive data.
Yeah, that allows you to work with encrypted data without ever decrypting it.
So even if someone gets access to the data, they can't read it.
Exactly. It adds an extra layer of security.
And benchmarking is important too, right?
Absolutely. You need to make sure DeepSeek R1 is performing as expected.
So monitor, encrypt, and benchmark the holy trinity of responsible AI deployment.
You got it.
Are there any other partnerships data teams should consider?
Cloud providers that offer DeepSeek R1 optimized services can be a big help.
So instead of building your own infrastructure, you're renting one that's already set up.
Exactly. The article mentioned AWS EC2 R1 instances as an example.
Makes sense. So are there any companies actually using DeepSeek R1 successfully?
Yeah, the article highlights a company called Perplexity.
Perplexity, I've heard of them.
They're using DeepSeek R1 to power their search engine.
Wow, that's impressive. So it's actually being used in the real world.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that the authors of the article actually used Perplexity to research and write the article itself.
No way. So they're using the technology they're writing about.
Exactly, and they said that DeepSeek R1 performed better than the other models they were used to.
That's a real testament to its capabilities.
Yeah.
Right. So we've covered a lot of ground here. The good, the bad, the strategies, the real-world examples. But what does all this mean for data engineering as a field?
That's a great question, and that's what we're going to dive into next.
So before we got sidetracked by all the cool things people are doing with DeepSeek R1, we were talking about how this is impacting data engineering itself.
Right, the big picture.
Yeah, what's the future look like?
Well, the article talks about a rapidly changing landscape,
Uh-huh.
and DeepSeek R1 is in the center of it all.
Okay.
One of the big things they highlight is the rise of the full-stack data and AI engineer.
Okay, we touched on that a little bit earlier, but I'm still not totally clear on what that means.
Sure.
We're talking about like some data engineering superhero who can do it all?
Uh-huh. Well, maybe not a superhero.
Okay.
But definitely someone with a much broader set of skills than what data engineers needed before.
So what kind of skills are we talking about?
Think distributed systems, reinforcement learning, hardware optimization, the whole shebang.
Wow. So no more specialized silos.
It's all about being a jack of all trades.
So data engineers will need to understand the entire AI pipeline from start to finish.
Exactly. From data acquisition and pre-processing all the way to model training, deployment, and monitoring.
So they'll be like the conductors of the AI orchestra.
Yeah, making sure all the different parts are working together in harmony.
That sounds pretty challenging.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting.
Okay, so full stack data engineers are the future. What else is on the horizon?
Another interesting trend is the simplification of infrastructure.
Simplification.
Yeah, as models like DeepSeek R1 become more efficient, they need less computational power.
Okay.
So we might see these large-scale models deployed in smaller, more distributed environments like on-edge devices.
Hold on. So you're saying we could have powerful AI running on our phones or even smaller devices?
It's definitely a possibility.
That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, it's pretty amazing. And as this happens, we'll likely see new specializations pop up within data engineering.
Okay, so what kind of new roles are we talking about?
Well, the article mentioned things like MOE architect and RL pipeline engineer.
Wow, okay.
Cool.
I'm definitely going to need to learn some new AI vocabulary.
Don't worry, we'll all be learning together.
All right, so for our listeners who might be feeling a bit overwhelmed by all of this, and let's face it, it's a lot to digest.
Yeah, it is.
What's the main takeaway? What should they be thinking about as they navigate this new world of AI?
I think the most important thing is to remember that DeepSeek R1 isn't just another AI model.
It's more than that.
It's a catalyst for a fundamental shift in how we approach data and AI.
So it's a game changer.
It's a sign that the old rules no longer apply.
So we need to be ready to adapt.
Exactly, to embrace new ways of thinking and working.
And this all ties back to that Sputnik moment we were talking about.
Right, just like Sputnik kicked off the space race,
Uh-huh.
DeepSeek R1 could trigger a global race to develop even more advanced AI.
And it's not just about technology. It's about economic and geopolitical power, too.
Exactly. Whoever controls the most advanced AI will have a huge advantage on the world stage.
It's like we're standing at a crossroads, and the decisions we make today will have a huge impact on the future.
That's a great way to put it. DeepSeek R1 has the potential to democratize AI and spark amazing innovation. But it also raises some big questions about security control and the possibility of misuse.
So it's a double-edged sword.
In a way, it is, and it's up to all of us to make sure AI is used ethically and for the benefit of humanity.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the choices we make as individuals and as a society.
Exactly. DeepSeek R1 is a powerful tool, but like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
So the future of AI is in our hands.
It's something we're actively shaping with every decision we make.
That's a powerful thought. So as our listeners go off and learn more about DeepSeek R1 and the ever-changing world of AI, what would you encourage them to keep in mind?
I would say stay curious, keep learning, and be open to new possibilities.
That's great advice.
We're just at the beginning of the AI revolution. The most exciting chapters are yet to come.
Well said. This has been an incredible deep dive into DeepSeek R1. Thank you so much for joining us.
It was my pleasure. Always a great conversation.
Be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more explorations of the most impactful trends shaping our world.